Hello, I am Steve Sherwood, and just want to take a few minutes to do some introductory comments related to the Bible survey class and particularly the syllabus. This is for those of you who are, due to the weather, unable to make it back to campus on time for class Monday morning. So, in this short video, we're just going to be walking through the syllabus. I'll try to make some sort of editorial comments about key points that you'll need to know, and and then that'll be it. We'll take a little bit of time on class on Wednesday for you to make ask questions if questions arise from what I describe here and things are not self-explanatory. Other than that, we're just going to go straight at it and begin with content on Wednesday. Okay, assuming that a large portion of you will be able to make it to campus and will be in class tomorrow, on Monday morning. All right, so to begin with, just a bit of an overview for the course. Just want to make this introductory statement. Some of you come to this class with tons of Bible experience. You maybe have grown up in the church, went to a Christian high school, something like that. Confident that if that's you, you're still going to encounter stuff in this course that you're unfamiliar with. Portions of the Bible, perhaps that you haven't really read before, or don't know the plot to, or kind of issues related to context, historical background, to biblical stories and stuff that will be new to you and will provide insights. Another group of you have never read the Bible before, have perhaps don't come from a Christian background at all, are here at Fox for reasons other than the fact that it's a Christian school, and you may have a good bit of apprehension about this course. Um, I want to assure you that we're going to move pretty slowly through the text. I'm going to work hard to explain terminology and concepts in a way that even if you have no background in the Bible, you shouldn't be too thrown off. Every semester, I have students who are in that exact situation and then get great grades and do tremendously well in the course. So don't panic, don't be anxious. If you are new to Scripture, I think you'll find that you'll do just fine. Things will be all right. So the basic point of the course, we're going to try to do several things with the Bible. And one we'll talk about when we get to the assignments. You're going to read quite a bit of it. You're not going to read every page at all, even close, but you are going to read portions of every section of the Bible. I feel like in a class like this, it's just important to actually read the text to get in and do that. And you'll have a weekly assignment that's going to kind of hold you accountable to that, which we'll come to in a few minutes. So on top of that, here are some things that we want to look at in this course. You're going to look at the basic plot of the Bible. One of the things you're going to discover very quickly is the Bible is really sort of a collection of several books, several stories. In some ways, it's more of a library than it is a single book. But there's kind of a unified narrative that's happening, particularly partway through the book of Genesis, which is the first book. We're introduced to a man named Abraham, and then Abraham's family. And Abraham's family grows into the nation of Israel, and we follow their experiences for hundreds and hundreds of years, and that eventually leads to the birth of Jesus. And then we follow the story of Jesus and what comes after him in what is called the New Testament. And so by the end of the semester, you'll have a sense of how that all holds together. What is the basic plot line of the Bible? That'll be one of the things. You're going to know and learn a lot of key individuals. We're not going to get too hung up on spelling or dates or that kind of thing, but you're going to learn sort of the significant men and women that make up the story of the Bible and that contribute to the writing of the Bible. You're going to look at a lot of themes. So the Bible is not just a collection of stories, nor a collection of rules or anything like that, but it's some of our greatest ideas about who God is and what is going on with God interacting with humans come from the Bible. And so they're what are called theological themes that appear throughout the text. And we'll explore quite a few of those. You'll also, and then this is going to be for some of you, one of the the biggest new elements of your understanding of the Bible or Scripture is we're going to spend quite a bit of time looking at historical context. Like, what was going on when this particular book of the Bible was written? What was the cultural situation? What was going on in the surrounding countries that were interacting with the Israelites when this was written? And we'll do that kind of throughout the book. You're also going to discover, as I said, the Bible is a library, so it's got a bunch of different literary genres or literary styles. There's poetry, history, lists of rules, lists of just plain narrative. There's this very imaginative, prophetic stuff called apocalyptic that we'll also explore. So by the end of the course, you'll have kind of a basic understanding of the various literary styles or genres that make up Scripture. And then finally, we'll do a little very introductory look at what is called biblical criticism, which is not to critique or make fun of or tear down the Bible, but criticism in a literary standpoint is just study. How have scholars studied the Bible? What are various ways in which we explore authorship? You know, books that don't have anyone listed as the author. How do we make some guesses and some uh, assumptions, perhaps, as who might have written this book or that book? Um, might a book have had multiple authors? How do we understand those kind of things? That's the area of biblical criticism. We're not going to spend a ton of time in that, but we will do some basic introductory things with that. For the textbooks, the first is just a Bible. And so in the syllabus, I list this version of the NIV Bible, mostly because it's the very cheapest one I could find on the internet. I think it costs $5 or less. So if you don't own a Bible before now, get this. It's a cheap and easy one. We'll be using the NIV predominantly in class. It's a very easy to understand, um, kind of widely used, very popular biblical text. That'll be what I'm reading out of most of the time in class. Um, you don't have to use that. If you have your own NIV, you're welcome to bring it. If you have another modern translation, you're welcome to use that as well. I do ask if your only Bible is a King James version, that you get something more modern. The King James Version is hundreds of years old, and the English language has since the time it was written. And biblical scholarship. We know quite a bit more about the original Hebrew and Greek of the Bible now than we do when that was written. So it's a beautiful text, but not so accurate and not in really our vernacular language anymore. So if you have a King James Bible, please get a more modern translation. We're also not, I'm going to ask you not to use in your homework reading like the Message or what are sometimes called paraphrases. And you can, if you have a Bible that you think might be that, you can usually look and it'll say in the inside cover that it's a paraphrase, but not a literal translation of Scripture. So that's a little bit about the Bible, but you don't have to buy the one in the syllabus if you have another modern translation. Um, Later in the semester, you're going to be doing an assignment with this book, Misreading Scripture with Western Eyes, where you will read the entire book and essentially write a variation of a book report on it. But we'll go into exactly how that will look more often. You also need to acquire this book, The Bible, Ancient Context, and Ongoing Community, which was written by myself and Brian Doak, who's an Old Testament scholar and a fellow in the Honors College. That book will be part of your weekly homework. So every week, you are going to read a portion of the Bible, and I on Foxtail for the site, the assigned readings are listed there. And every week you will read usually two, sometimes more than two chapters of this book, and you'll provide a reading summary. So you need to get that book as quickly as possible. There are various used versions. Unfortunately, the publisher we worked with has now set the new copy price quite high. So both Brian and I encourage you to find the book in any way that you can that's cheap. And a used version is just fine. And I'll even try to help you find copies of that if I can. Okay, so those are the three texts. So want to briefly, and I'm going to go into more detail in a few minutes about how the weekly reading assignment is going to work, because that's really going to be one of the more complex or perhaps confusing things especially here as the semester gets started. But once you get the hang of it, it'll be pretty easy to know how to do it. It just gets a little boring. It just is relentless. Every week, every week, every week, you have to read a big chunk of the Bible and chapters in that book and do a summary. So here's how your grade will break out, and I'm just kind of working through the syllabus. So hopefully you've accessed this on the Foxtail site or in the email I sent you, and you can kind of follow along with me. You will have 3 exams throughout the semester, essentially one every 5 weeks at various breaks. You'll have exam 1 when we're about halfway through the Old Testament, exam 2 kind of as we leave the Old Testament, start the New, and then your final exam will be most of the New Testament and some summary questions from throughout the first 2 tests. So you know, 3 exams. Each one of them are worth 20% of your final grade, and they will be a mixture of multiple choice questions, matching questions, and a few short answer questions as well. Usually about 40 or 50 questions per exam. And I'll give you a study guide for those, and we'll even have some in-class time to review. My goal with the exams is not to fool you, not to trick you, or spring some surprise information on you. It will be pretty clear what I want. Like I will work with you quite a bit to know this is exactly what Steve is looking for on the exam. So if you take advantage of the study guide I give you and the review sessions, you'll do quite well on the exams. So don't be apprehensive about those. 15% of your grade is the reading summaries, the weekly summaries. Okay, so let's take a moment to look at that. If you are on the Foxtail site to access this video, I've posted under week 1 2 samples of what I'm looking for from 2 different students that took the course last semester. So in this summary, you're welcome to make comments like, I really like this passage, or this confuses me or angers me. I'm not going to grade that. What I am looking for is just evidence that you actually read the text, okay? And all you need to do with that is you can do bullet points. So it doesn't have to be a paragraph. In fact, I encourage you not to. You'll see in both of the samples that I provided, neither student ever does a paragraph. One of them doesn't even do complete sentences. They do phrases. So it's not like one word, Genesis 1, God creates. But like a few bullet points of in Genesis chapter 1, what are a few of the highlights in bullet point form of what that chapter talks about? And you'll kind of bracket your reading each week when you do this. So this first week, Genesis 1 through 5, you'll do a heading for that, and then you'll do bullet points of all kind of the main things that happened in Genesis 1 through 5. That probably will take you about a page and a half. And then you'll read the chapters in ancient context, ongoing community, and you'll do bullet points for that as well. So same format for the textbook, and again, just making bullet point comments. I would say on average, virtually every week will take you at least 3 single-space pages to do, sometimes more. I apologize for that. But what I recommend is sitting with your laptop open and just typing up your summary as you're reading. So doing the reading and just typing your summary in so that by the time you've finished the reading, you've also finished the summary. Save it in a PDF or a Word doc or something like that, and you'll post it on Foxtail. Those are due every Monday. Okay, so the week 1 reading summary is due the Monday of week 2, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you always the syllabus will list when, like it lists under week 1, Genesis 1 through 5, and the first couple chapters of the textbook. Those are not due until the very first day of week 2. And that just continues all semester long. Okay, so and you also just post it. There's a heading listing what you're supposed to read. That's also where you find out what you're supposed to read. You'll notice that in the syllabus, I don't have the reading list. The reading list is on Foxtail. So just read what is posted on Foxtail, summarize it, and then post your summary there on that Monday, and you'll get graded. I will accept late work. You will lose some points for that. If it's just a couple days late, not very many points, but as time goes on, that gets more and more significant. But even at the end of the semester, I'll take late work for like 50% or something like that. Um, this is so if you're unfamiliar with the Bible, these are easy points, okay? These are not points where you need to understand really what you're reading. You just have to do it. If you do the reading, do the summary, and turn it in on time, you get 100 every week, week after week after week, even if it's the first time you've ever encountered any of this, and you're still kind of confused by it. The only way to hurt your grade on the reading summaries is just not to do them. And unfortunately, every semester, there's some of you that will do that. There's some that just get behind, don't do it, and you end up losing quite a bit of your grade. So basically, at 15% in a 15-week semester, um, each week's reading summary is 1 point on your final grade. So if you go, 15 weeks and don't do any summaries and had 100 on every single test, the highest grade you could get in the class would be an 85, right? So every single week that you do the summary, you're adding a point to your final grade. Every week that you don't do one, you're losing a point. Okay, so it's pretty straightforward how much that counts and what a percentage of your grade that is. Next, there's 15% of your grade. Oh, let me go back to reading summaries real quickly. You're going to have questions about that. Okay, so this first week or two, you can ask questions on Wednesday and Friday. You can email me questions. Also, just turn in what you think I want, and my TA or I will give you feedback in the first couple of weeks. The first couple of weeks, we pretty much give people 100% if they turn stuff in on time, whether it's incomplete or not. Some of you will write way too much, and we will give you feedback the first couple of weeks like, hey, you're spending too much time on this. You can back off. You don't have to write 10 pages, 12 pages. Please don't do that. Others of you, will do half a page for the whole thing, and we'll immediately tell you like that's inadequate. You're not going to get a good grade if you keep doing that. So, but we'll help you figure that out. So, but you can also ask questions Wednesday and Friday. We'll have some opportunities for that. And then 15% of your grade will be doing a pretty detailed report, kind of written report on this book. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about that tonight. As we get closer, we will look at that. That's also due kind of in the last fourth of the semester with about 2 or 3 weeks to go. So you should purchase the book now, but you don't need to worry about getting started reading it yet. You have quite a bit of time before we get into that, and we'll also talk quite a bit about that assignment as it gets closer. Okay, so and then finally, 10% of your grade is coming to class. Your exams will be 100% based upon things I talk about in class. Okay, so it's very important that you be there. I will take attendance every single class period. If you miss three or less classes throughout the semester, that has no impact on your grade. So it's a 3-credit course. I give you 3 absences. Beyond that, it will begin to affect your grade. So if you miss 5 classes, 6 classes, 10 classes, you're out of that 10% that attendance counts for the grade, you're going to begin losing points. Okay, in addition to just also falling behind in terms of the lecture. So the lecture is going to be very essential to doing well on the tests, and so you need to be in class. I will take attendance. Okay, so here are some expectations I have for how you should act in class. Okay, there's 100 of you. So obviously, I'm not, this isn't the kind of class where everyone's going to talk, where we're just going to have discussions all the time and I'll throw something out and just everybody inputs. With 100 of you, that would be impossible. Having taught this size Bible survey class previously, it basically turns into, there's probably going to be about 10 to 20 of you that answer questions, ask questions with some regularity, make comments. But a lot of you won't really talk at all in class, and that's okay. Um, but I do have some very clear expectations on how I want you to be engaged. Okay. I don't want you to use computers in class. It's just with the Wi-Fi, it's just too easy to get distracted to get on the internet, and before you know it, you're not really paying attention, and you've missed quite a bit of material. So I want you to take notes with a pen and and a notebook. It's kind of old school notes. Please don't use computers. I want phones turned off. Even in a class like Hoover 105, it's pretty easy to see when somebody is sitting texting. If you're staring at your lap for 10 minutes, with your hands, like standing in front of the class, it's pretty easy to see when someone is distracted and texting and doing stuff other than taking notes. So I ask that you turn your phones off. We're only there for 50 minutes. Um, Anyone that's texting you, you'll be able to text them back quickly after class. But so phones off, no computers. Um, Stay awake. Obviously, at various points in the semester, you get really tired. If you nod off for a second, that's not a problem. But if you've had classes in high school or college where you just come in and basically camp out as soon as you get there and fall asleep and wake up an hour later, that'll count as an absence. I want you to be awake, be present in class. I also don't want you to work on stuff for other classes. Um, Again, what you're gonna be tested on is what we cover in class. So when you're there, be there. Be taking notes, be making eye contact with me, be kind of engaging in various ways. I'd love to have you comment, and that would be great. One way that I'm going to give everyone an opportunity to talk some is we're going to do on Sunday evenings, kind of starting about the fourth week of the semester. We will do these 45-minute discussion groups on Sunday nights at Hoover, and I come for an hour and a half. Students will come for 45 minutes at a time, and I will divide you into groups of about 15 students. And throughout the semester, you'll come twice, and you'll have assigned nights that you come. You'll either come at like 7 o'clock to 7:45 or 7:45 to 8:30. And when you're there, we just have a discussion about anything that's going on in class, anything we've talked about, any questions people might have. And the week that you come, on your two assigned weeks, you don't have to do your reading summary for that week. So in 45 minutes of discussion, you get out of however long it would have taken you to do the summary. And that just helps me get to know you a little bit better. In a class of 100, it's very difficult for me to really get to know folks. But these discussion groups help with that. I've also just found that folks that are really quiet in class and never say a word often have super interesting comments or questions, and this is a chance for us to interact about them. So I'll tell you more about that as it comes along, but that's going to be something that's going to happen in class as well. Class will start on time. I will be ready to go at 10 o'clock every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I expect you to be. Okay, so please do not plan on just kind of wandering in sometime in the first 5-10 minutes. Be there by 10 o'clock. We will end on time. I want you to respect my time and being there at 10. I respect your time by ending at 10:50. I mean, I'm not going to go over, and we'll work very hard to not do that. So I think you can trust that. But I do ask you to be on time and be ready to go. One final interactive piece, and this is going to be somewhat true in class. It's going to be true in the discussion groups and in your written work, like the paper that you do on the book. Um, we won't all agree with each other. People are going to say things in class that you think are crazy, or that maybe is very different than what you grew up hearing in your church, or that what you think or believe. I may say things that are different than what your pastor at home said, or your youth pastor, or parents, or what you've grown up thinking about the Bible. You may encounter ideas in the textbooks that are new and different and disturbing or bothersome to you in some way. That's okay. You don't need to leave this class being a Steve Sherwood clone. I'm not asking you to believe and think everything I do or everything that the textbook says. I don't agree with Brian on everything, and we wrote a book together. and there's things that he says that I don't agree with. I'm sure there's things I say in that textbook that he doesn't agree with either. Here is the thing. You are very free to disagree with me, with each other, with the textbooks. Um, you're very free to express that. In fact, I really encourage you to. What I do expect and require of you, however, is that you do that in a respectful and caring way. Okay? There are ways to disagree with someone where you treat them like they're an idiot or treat them like they're an evil person. Like, I don't think you're even a Christian if you say that kind of thing, or that's awful. You're an awful person to even think that or say that, or you're stupid. What kind of idiot would think that sort of thing? Um, if you interact in class like that, you can count on me probably pulling you aside or emailing you outside of class and asking to meet with you, and we'll talk about that. If you do that in your written work, um, you'll fail that assignment or be asked to redo it. Most semesters, I usually have one or two students when it comes to the misreading scripture book or some other book that just hate it for some reason and really go off on this book is awful and these ideas are stupid and why are we even having to read something like this? And I'll send it back to you and say, I'm not going to give you a grade for this. Like, you have to redo this or I'm going to fail you on this assignment. But you're welcome to disagree, to express that strongly. Do it in a polite way. Point out, well, here are the good points in the book. Here are things that I do agree with. Here are what I think the author is trying to say, or Steve, what I think you or Brian is trying to say in the textbook. Here's where I question it. Here's the problem I have with it and why. Right? So if you'll kind of make a calm, polite, supported argument for why you disagree, you can disagree all you want. I really very strongly want you to know you don't need to pretend to agree with everything I say or that the various books we're going to read say as the semester goes along. You do have to interact well in a way that shows respect, that in a way that shows that you take the other person seriously, whether that's me or the textbook or a classmate, a way that shows that you've considered their argument in a genuine and fair way, and then still disagree with it, and that's totally fine. Okay? For most of you, that's not going to be any issue at all, but I feel the need to say that because every semester it's a handful of students. And I just think in a college setting, it's very important for us to learn how to disagree well with one another. The disagreement doesn't have to turn into war and us trying to tear down and attack one another. Disagreement can be a really productive thing where we all can grow from it. And I hope that's what we'll experience as we go through class. Um, Also want to comment about accommodation. So you have to read quite a bit here in the class. I would encourage a lot of you, well, some of you have accommodations related to reading. Perhaps you have a reading disability. I have a daughter who does. And she has accommodations at school. Almost every textbook that she interacts with at school, she listens to rather than reading with her eyes. Um, there's tons of Bible apps that you could listen to the Bible reading, and that counts. You don't have to sit down and open it up and read it. If you want to listen to that week's scripture and take notes on it, that is completely appropriate, whether you need an accommodation or not. If you need accommodation for the other textbooks, we can work on that. And obviously, if you have accommodations for testing, I want to work with you in that way too. Essentially, I want to set you up to succeed in the class. I want you to be able to access the material in a way that is helpful for you and not burdensome. So if there's any kind of issue related to how you learn and how you process information, talk to me right at the start of the semester and we'll figure something out. I just want to make sure that you have kind of an equal playing field in terms of moving through the course. Okay, so I'm sure there's plenty of questions. I'm sure I haven't addressed everything that you might be thinking in the syllabus, but that's kind of an introduction. And we'll get going on Wednesday. We'll have time this first week or so in the first couple classes for more questions as they come up. But that's a little bit of an introduction. I think you're going to find you're going to like this class. Um, I've taught it a lot of times. This is my 12th year at Fox. I've taught this class at least twice a year, every year I've been here. I've probably taught Bible Survey over 30 times. And I love this course, and generally students enjoy it a lot too. I get reviews from students that say it was a lot more interesting and engaging and exciting than they thought it was going to be. And I think you'll find that if you're willing to kind of invest a little bit of yourself, stay awake, participate, take good notes, you'll do well, and I think you'll find it interesting. And I guess just maybe one final comment before wrapping this up. Um, this isn't Sunday school. Okay, so as we move through this, the point of this class is to not have a devotional thought every single day. You know, we're not just reading the Bible for warm, fuzzy moments that, a devotional thing to help you have a positive afternoon. There are going to be some moments like that. My hope is there will be some days where you leave class feeling emotionally stirred, that something that we talked about in Scripture or about Scripture makes you love God more or be more passionate about Jesus or the Bible or than you've ever been, or speaks to your life in some real way. But this is a college academic class. Okay, so that's a side goal, and I think something that will happen with some regularity. But that's not all we're doing in this class. There are some days where it's going to feel like a history class, or that we're just looking at who wrote Isaiah and how do we know that and what are the dates, and some days are going to be less inspirational than others. But I do trust that there will be a bit of both. So if you're nervous that, okay, the point of this class is to just take away all the magic, all the mystery and wonder of the Bible and just treat it from an academic standpoint, we're not going to do that. But at the same time, it's not just Sunday school. It's not just a devotional that we're all going to have together 3 times a week. So it's going to be a bit of both. And I think you'll get a feel for that and be good with that. But I just wanted to be clear about that as we get started. So if you're watching this, you probably weren't at class on Monday. We will see you Wednesday and look forward to getting going with the semester. It's going to be a good one.